Morning. I'm delighted to be here today to tell you about a topic I was concerned with in theory when working at a university and now in practice, teaching history in grammar school. Today I'm talking about history magazines in Germany, and I will try to answer the question if these magazines can be declared a useful tool for history education. My talk is divided into three parts. First of all, I will try to give you a short impression of the market situation in Germany, and thereby point out that one may not speak of the German history magazine in the singular. In the second step, I'm going to present you some results of an examination of history magazine covers that aim to bring to light general tendencies within the market, as well as the profiling of the different magazines. The question were how far the formats differ with regard to their choice of topic, that meant time, place, and subject matter, and how far do they differ in presentational methods, for example, the use of picture and text elements. In the third step, I will finally communicate my provisional answer to the question, are history magazines a useful tool for history education? And after that, I will be glad to discuss this estimation together. So let's start with the market situation in Germany. Going to the newspaper stand, a customer currently has to decide between 18 different history magazines in a narrow sense. Telling you this number is quite bold, since I do not know if I missed a new publication that started in the last weeks, or if one of the magazines had to close its doors the last days. Apart from the big names, the market is extremely uncertain, with a lot of changes in the last years. When I said 18 magazines, I said in a narrower sense. In a narrower sense means that I did not count the range of magazines dealing with the history of cars, planes, or sports, as well as the magazines that present biographies of historical and contemporary celebrities. The following chart is quite small, but I think you see that it's going up. The following chart shows you the first editions of the German history magazines. The oldest currently available magazine, Damals, was first published in 1969. Only 3 other magazines have a tradition dating back from the time before 1990. The majority of today's history magazines in Germany gained access to the market during the last 2 decades. The year 2010 here stands out thanks to 5 new releases. Although some of the magazines do not succeed, producers think that the market is not saturated yet. This chart was created about a year ago, and today I have to cross out 4 of these magazines. So you see, the market is very uncertain. In light of these circumstances, the question arises what possibilities remain for problems over there. Okay. What possibilities remain for the many representatives of the sector history to win interested readers to their own project? Besides the differences in magazine price and size, selection and presentation of topics can also be regarded as decisive criteria for the reader's decision to buy. In the first step, the 18 magazines can be divided into 2 groups. On the one hand, there are special interest magazines aimed at a particular target group, interested in history in common. On the other hand, there are the so-called very special interest magazines, which are limited on a single aspect of history, for example, military history, archaeology, or reenactment. These very special interest magazines and the mentioned subgroups surely offer a range of opportunities for investigation and cannot be excluded when dealing with history magazines as a whole. The military magazines, for example, occupy a special position in light of their sometimes openly displayed, sometimes hidden nationalist to neo-fascist alignment and historically revolutionary tendencies. But even though military magazines may sometimes clearly differ from the classical history magazine regarding the contents, we can easily find similarities. The The producers claim to present proven historical information, and they adopt the look of popular history magazines on the outside, that we may call inconspicuous. Regarding the timescale for this lecture, we will nevertheless have to exclude the very special interest magazines in the next few minutes. I excluded them. But I would like to ask you not to forget that this kind of magazines have to be considered an important part of the market of history magazines in Germany. Before I'm now going to present you preferred topics and presentational methods of the special interest magazines, it should be mentioned that this group can be divided into two groups again. The first of these groups is called multi-thematic. The multi-thematic special interest magazines offer the reader a title topic together with a more or less broad range of historical topics which do not necessarily have to be connected. As an example, a magazine that isn't on the market anymore, I think it came from Scandinavia and it didn't succeed on the German market. We have a title topic on Hitler, and on the left side you see we have a dispute over nutmeg. We have red, the color of power, and an article about the Gotthard base number. So there's no connection at all, or I can see it. Okay, the second group, so-called monothematic magazines, focus on the historical topic and suggest to the buyer that a historical topic is covered in detail and completely. So if you buy this magazine, you will think, after I read it, I know all about Stalin. And I'm a professional in this case. Now I hope that you have at least a rough idea of the range of popular history magazines in Germany, and on this basis we move on to the second part of the lecture. I'm going to present you some results of an analysis dealing with the front pages of the magazine. Again, it's just front pages that I looked at. The examination of history magazine covers aim to reveal how far forms differ with regard to their choice of topic, this time, place, or the subject matter, and with regard to their presentational methods, the use of picture and text elements. Besides profiling specific magazines, the analyst should again help to record general tendencies within the market. As I already mentioned, my focus now lays on the special interest magazines, but in total the covers of 461 magazines between the years 2005 and 2013 were evaluated. The first category is the category time. The evaluation of the category time reveals that the periods of time which can be termed Middle Ages and Antiquity are very attractive for popular history magazines. But as we see, both epochs hardly seem to be able to measure up to the modern topics if we count them together. The simple reason may be the fact that historical knowledge increases with the topics growing in proximity to the present. The producers get a wider range of possible topics and they can vary. However, the frequency of period spanning topics is surprising. Some of the magazines chose historical phenomena which can be processed and presented in a kind of diachronic longitudinal section. For example, the magazine Damals shows us the history of gambling through the time. It is further indicated that contemporary history since the end of the Second World War is in general of little importance to the history magazines. Apparently, editors are convinced that readers who are interested in historical material expect a certain historical distance, one which should at least go beyond the history that they have witnessed themselves. Let's now turn to the second category. It's the category of place. Where is the topic located? As can be expected from history magazines published in Germany, the majority deals with topics from the European area. The second largest category is overlapping and includes, besides issues concerning the entire world, titles that take up an aspect which refers to at least two continents. So there were problems with the analysis. If there were two continents, we had to take the category overlapping, for example, a place in the sun, Germany's South colonies. African topics are dominated by the thematic complex named Egypt, and these titles about the land of the pharaohs obscure the fact that this continent is otherwise largely neglected on the cover page. Surprisingly, the same holds true for the American era, although the history of the USA, which is omnipresent in today's media. Having a closer look on the topics, it is instantly apparent that magazines dealing with the historical personality hold a special position. More than 1 in every 5 issues is dedicated to the life or a period of the life of a single person. It can therefore be assumed that personalization is the form of presentation we find in popular history magazines. Who are the persons we find on the front pages? The result of this closer look is somehow curious. On the one hand, we have predictable mentions of Napoleon, Hitler, and Jesus, though it remains unclear whether the magazines present a historical Jesus or the Son of God. We don't know it because I just had a look on the cover pages. What is surprising is that we find King Arthur as well as Robin Hood. So we have 2 figures that are historically unverified. It should be mentioned that I did search for great women of history as well. Occasionally there were cover topics on female rulers such as Cleopatra or Mary Stuart, but the history that sells is in general regarded as being dependent on male protagonists. One of the topics following personalities is the area of war. That will not be surprising since we find in today's entertainment industry dealing with history, for example in film or computer games, always the topic war. Therefore, it is hardly surprising that the producers of magazines also regard war as a topic to make history attractive, entertaining, and exciting. Finishing the preferred topics, I would like to mention 2 more aspects that show the connection between entertainment and history in popular magazines. There are 2 magazines who present historical material from the areas love and sexuality and supernatural phenomena. Especially on the covers of PM History, one could find historical protagonists such as witches, devils, and demons, and in this case, vampires, werewolves, and children of the night. Okay, we have to move on to the title and the pictures. The last 2 categories examined how historical topics are presented by the producers of the magazines. To get an answer to this question, I classified the style of the titles placed on the cover pages and the use of pictures. To summarize the results, the magazines show a huge difference in their presentation of history. For example, the number and type of pictures differed a lot. The magazine Geo Epoch had 96% of its covers with a single image. On the other hand, PM History had 79% with a collage. A special position is also held by the magazines PM History and Geschichte in the choice of picture material. Here pictures dominate which were taken at a clear temporal distance from the depicted historical event. Accordingly, these pictures have to be classified as useless with regard to their source value for the event, and thus have a purely illustrative character. In this way, it is not surprising that in the categories film and computer, usually 2 non-contemporary image types can be exclusively or almost exclusively found on the cover of these 2 magazines. To conclude, these formats use an extreme form of evidently popular and unhistorical mean of design that is apparently rejected by all other special interest formats, who mainly show contemporary portraits, paintings, photographed items, and photographs on their covers. If we now turn to the titles chosen for the covers, huge differences between the magazines named above become apparent as well. While some producers try to formulate their titles in a factual, plain way, others use a sensational style to catch the reader's interest. Inquiring titles, in the case of PM history, show a preference for the secrets and mysteries of history. To give you an example, the title "In the Wonderland of the Pharaohs, Searching for the Hidden Knowledge of the Old Egyptians" enriches the subject matter with stylistic devices, making it an esoteric topic. To finish this short impression of the analysis, I now want to summarize the main conclusions in view of the magazine's suitability for history education. The examination results for the categories title and pictures provide clear indications of heterogeneous working methods and sales practices within the group of popular magazines. Whereas a section of the magazines shows an academic orientation, some producers proceed according to the motto, "In the battle to win historically interested readership, everything is allowed." Spectacular appearance, together with a multitude of linguistic, textual, and visual borrowings from youth culture, might address a younger audience. The cover pages of other magazines indicate a high-quality alternative program according to the standards of history studies and history didactics. The buyer has to decide between rather spectacular or entertaining history magazines and factual or informative formats. Okay, we now come to the last question. Are popular history magazines a useful tool? I try to hurry a little bit. Okay. In practice, I think that we should always remember that there are two ways of using history magazines in classroom. The first way is to use them as an information medium. That means that pupils read articles or get the magazine as a whole and shall learn something about history. By reading them, they can extend their stock of historical knowledge. The second way is to use them as a medium that asks the pupils to reflect the presentation of history in the media. I think that the question if history magazines are a useful tool for history teaching only can be answered if we take into account these two ways of using them. Yesterday we heard some aspects of history magazines that we could call negative. It is, for example, the personalization of history, hereby especially the presentation of a primarily male history, as well as the usage of naked women as an eye-catcher. Negative is that the magazines blur the boundaries between fact and fiction. They show historical actors talking to each other, showing their inner thoughts and feelings. Negative is moreover the usage of pictures that are not contemporary, that do not refer to the text, that are pure entertainment and lead the reader to believe that there is a single objective approach to history. And negative is furthermore that we often do not find any discussion or different views of the past in the magazines. History magazines claim to tell and show the readers the right point of view. But all these negative aspects are part of these magazines because they are a journalistic product that is selling history. Personalization, fame or prominence, violence and spatial proximity, just to name a few, are known as news values in media science. These aspects only are negative if we miss to reflect them in the classrooms. Otherwise, if we talk about these aspects of history magazines in school, pupils have the chance to extend their knowledge about historical culture as well as their historical consciousness and media literacy. Only if pupils use history magazines or single articles in the first way I mentioned above, as an information medium, the characteristics of the magazines have to be regarded as a dangerous breed. Only if it is all about the contents, teachers have to check carefully if these magazines fulfill the academic standards we, for example, expect of history textbooks. What I want to say is that popular media in most cases cannot be regarded as a trustworthy source of information we can leave the pupils alone with in school. That is why I think that it's not only worth to integrate popular history magazines in history education, it is rather necessary. Perhaps the term tool for history education therefore is misleading. If teachers choose an article or magazine very thoughtfully, they might be a tool for history teaching. In any case, the popular history magazines should be an object of history education, an object that motivates young people to deal with history and presentations of history because it connects to their everyday life. That's it.
Questions? Dan? Yes.
I really liked, thank you, especially the ending that you referred to, or replace the word to with object and to object for history lessons. And I maybe add a third way of using these magazines in the lesson. Of course, that's depending where you teach, but sometimes in the area there are editors living close by and you can visit them as well. For example, in Zeit in Hamburg, they offer this for students, for pupils to come there and have a look inside. And the editor, he told us the process of how one magazine comes into being and what they discuss in this with all the members of the staff, what kind of topic they choose, what kind of front page they choose. They were debating about the 1900s, for example, whether they should use a topic like vegetarianism in Germany. 100 years ago as it started, and they were discussing it against should we use Karl Marx as a topic. And the majority said, oh, let's take Karl Marx, personality, and put it on the front page. And the students followed this and then could get an insight into how this is working actually. Was really good for them to understand the process. And I would also ask a question about the categories when you say personalities and secrets, religion, etc. When you think of, I can imagine it's probably quite hard to put them into categories. Religion, secrets, with the example of the pharaohs here, where did you put it in?
Yeah, we had big problems when we started this analysis. It should be European analysis, and we all wanted to have the same categories. And we decided that we have 3 points we can split, so that if we have, for example, a title page about Hitler and China, thank you. Then we have personality, and we have other points we can give to get China into it. And I think it was nevertheless sometimes quite subjective, but we had to start somehow.
Robin Hood and Stalin are in one group.
They were in group personalities, and Robin Hood was in group legends and as well.
Any questions? Yes, Marion.
Thank you for the presentation. I wonder if these magazines with a more academic profile on the front page, does that correspond to the content of the writers, the historians, and those magazines, and the popular one of the writers, journalists?
We didn't check this in all cases. We had a look in the editorial, and in my final work at university, I tried to characterize the editorial team and the producers, and we had a look if they are historians. But I think it's not always. You can't say if they have a degree, you can say they are good historians and they present us academic, objective history, especially in the military magazines. They are historians, but they are as well in the German forces, and it's quite hard to take results out of it.
I have a question on when you showed up my magazines that are on the market. Are all of them produced in German? And are there in German language?
The ones I examined, they were all in Germany.
Yeah.
And the new ones of the last month, I would have to look again.
Because when you compare, you want to compare, and I have this problem to, I'm going to exclude someone else, like if they're I choose the ones that are in Swedish and mainly produced in Sweden, but we also have a market now those are produced in England, and there are in English, and they're quite big in Sweden now.
Okay.
So are we going to count those two in this? If you say that those are the magazines on the market.
Yesterday I heard that one of these magazines, the newest one, is a translation from Hungary. So it's completely translated and came to German. So
And some of the ones we have now, they are translated, some of the articles are produced in another country and they are translated. And we see this similarities when Katja and I were looked at those on the Danish market, and they're all the some articles are lived out and more national, national profile. And I would also like to say something about the end here. When you answer the question, those four magazines are useful for school. And sometimes we say about school books, there are no bad school books. It depends on how they are used.
Yeah.
I would say, I agree with you. It's very much how we use them. We can really use them to open students' eyes, and then they can be very useful. But we don't. So it's very good point. Thank you.
Susanne?
Yes, the first part to you, I think we have to make a differentiation. There is an international networking market. We have seen it also for France with Geo-Epoche. It's from Gruner and Jahr, it's a German publishing house. They are producing in France too for the first World. We have magister work research on that, and he was in direct contact with the journalists in Paris. And in this case, they do not only translate the German issue about First World War, but they take it, they also look to the pictures, but then they decide how to adapt to the French market. And so you can see very good the different things. Another case is in Slovakia. We saw magazines that were directly translated from Danish magazines. There's a big publishing house, I do not know if it's Danish is the last Swedish one. Yes, it was directly, and so we have a big market. For example, most of the Russian and Polish magazines, at least 10 years ago, they were strictly influenced by Springer Verlag. This is a very conservative and very sensation-seeking publishing house in Germany, and that came to the market of Russia and Poland. And the second one is Gruner and Jahr also, who is publishing a lot of magazines for us. The next point I would like to say is about naked women. I remember a study that most naked women are to see in women's journals. This is worldwide. No magazine has so many naked women as women's journals. So we have to put it into our consideration. And the last point is to you, that I would like to ask to tell us this anecdote that you told me yesterday about Hannibal, because I think it's a really nice anecdote that gives us a lot of reflection about this topic.
The presentation methods of history in the media, and in school I had a lesson about Hannibal and his attack on Rome. And I used a documentary film with my pupils, and the aim was to show them what reasons Carthage had to attack Rome, although Rome was stronger. And I think the reasons were economical reasons in the Mediterranean region, as well as a kind of preemptive war against Rome. And in this film, they used a presentation method we find in these magazines. There were two persons talking to each other, little Hannibal as a child, and his father. And his father told Hannibal what Rome did in the past against Carthage, and Hannibal had to swear that he is going to hate Rome all of his life. And this was shown, like in a normal film, and the reasons behind that, the historical reasons for the attack, we had a narrator who told this. And 1 week later, we had a a test about that, and half of the class, at least half of the class, they wrote that attack on Rome was because Hannibal said that he would hate Rome for all of its life. And they didn't remember the reasons the narrator told, but they remembered what the figures talked to each other. So that's, I think, a problem we have if we give those magazines to the pupils and tell them, okay, learn something about history. It's the wrong things they learn about.
Yeah.
It is because it's so, I think it's so overwhelmingly by imagination that this analytical approach cannot rival with that. And it's a dialectical challenge how to cope with this overwhelming imaginary approach to history and emotional and so on. Thank you for your story.
Any other questions? Okay. Can I thank the three presenters? I thought that was really interesting. Thank you very much.